Hello, I'm Chris Peterson, owner of Rivendale Homes. We're here today to talk about one of the hot topics of the late spring, early summer of 2025, and that's tariffs and how they affect the residential construction industry and new home building costs in specific. Certainly, tariffs have been in the news a lot lately. We've seen some initial movement up in price, particularly in steel. Seems to be one of the items that's been targeted more aggressively by the current administration. Steel costs have risen about 15 to 25% depending upon the item and where it comes from. Well, the tariffs have only been charged on imported steel. It's allowed the cost of locally produced steel to go up also. Appliances, windows, fireplaces, metal fireplaces, anything with metal fabrication, floating staircases, metal staircases. A lot of the hardwood in the United States has been expended, and so we're having to go overseas, particularly to Eastern Europe, to find different hardwood species for the cabinets now, and that's imported, of course, at a higher cost, but we've seen that cabinet material has risen noticeably during this spring and early summer. So across the board, we're starting to see some pricing pressures that are abnormal. Typically in the spring of each year, the suppliers tend to pass on price increases for the year that measure about 3 to 5%. We've certainly seen those this year, but in addition to that, we've seen some additional price increases for tariffs. And overall, I'd say we've seen material go up by about 10%, and I'd say we've seen labor come down by about 4 or 5% this year. So somewhat offsets the cost of the material increase, but not completely. The big question is, what can we do to mitigate the costs of tariffs? So our hard costs have gone up, the interest rates are higher, everybody's budget is tight. We're working closely with architects on a number of projects to be able to reduce our cost. There are certain areas from tariffs that we can't reduce, steel for instance, but there's a process called value engineering, and stage by stage, and look at the house bit by bit, material by material, and see where we can be more efficient. We're reducing things like exterior cladding. Brick on the exterior has become very expensive, so we're replacing brick in some areas with stucco, or reducing the amount of brick that we put in a house. This needs to be done in the design phase. We can do it after the design's been completed, but there are many items that we won't have the opportunity to be replaced because the plan is already done. Unless we wanted to go back and change the architecture, we cannot change many items that are already designed in the house. But if we can do it in the pre-design or design phase, we can have the option to build a house, even with these increased costs of tariffs, to an owner's budget. So right now we're working with a number of architects and a number of owners in designing house because they're aware of the costs of tariff. They're aware that more tariffs may be coming down the line, and they're very focused on staying on budget. So we're working with architects, and each time, generally when we go through the architecture process, we'll go through at least 3 or 4 generations of the plan. Each time we'll take the plan, we'll mark it up, we'll look at it from a cost standpoint, we'll go over with the owner, we'll go over with the architect, we'll make some value decisions. We want to reduce this, we understand the costs, we want to keep this, and so it's a lot of horse trading that goes on, but in order to stay on budget, we're going through this process through the design phase, while always making these value decisions mindful of the end product, which is the budget. More common today than it used to be in the past. Now with budgets being extremely tight, we're being asked even to redesign some houses that were designed that came in over budget. So obviously everyone's very, very budget conscious these days. Tariffs are putting a lot of pressure on everybody. They're driving costs up. They're making us much more aware of pricing pressure, and people are asking, what can we do to reduce this, or what can we do to design this right the first time by designing it to our budget? And that's a long process, but it's a process, as I said, we call value engineering, where we're involved with the architecture up front. We're involved when the architect's hired. We're brought on as a consultant basis. We work with the architect, we work with the owner to provide them options and provide them different budget ramifications, and so it allows them to get some real-time information as the house is being designed to make some value decisions. There's always trade-offs in life, and there's trade-offs in building a house, and we try and provide those real-world examples as the house is being designed. We end up as intended on budget. Much easier, as I said, to do it during that process than after. Once the house is designed, the structural elements of the house have been created. They can be changed, anything can be changed until it's built, but it costs money to change it. You have to go back, redesign it, you have to go back and redesign the structural, you have to go back and re-permit it. So there's time and money involved in that process. It's, as I said, much more efficient to do it up front before the project's designed than after.